Doing great, guys. We're on Unit 4 now, so we are solving systems of equations. I have a couple things for you to copy down. Do you remember when two lines, like here's what we're doing, graphing two different equations. When two lines have the same slope, but they start on the y-axis on different places, like one of them starts here, one of them starts here, but they have the same slope, that looks like train tracks or skis. They do not touch, so there is no solution. If the two lines have different slopes, then they're going to touch somewhere. That means there's one solution. There's only one spot where two lines can touch if they have different slopes. What if it's the same slope and the same starting point? Remember how the y-intercept is always where you put your first dot? So I put a black line under here first and with this slope, and then I put a purple line on top of it with the same exact slope and the same exact starting point. That means they touch everywhere. Every single point is touching, and it goes on and on forever, so there's infinitely many solutions. Let me refresh your memory on how to do some of these, and I'm going to go kind of quickly because I remember doing really well on these. But this very first group of equations, there's two of them, this one, and they both have y by itself, so that's great. That means I can just graph it right away. I'll do this one in black, and I will do this one in blue, so you can see which one is which. But the black line, I'm going to start on -2. Remember, you always start on the y-axis. It's called a y-intercept. So here's -2. And the slope is up 1 over 2. So I'm going to go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. If you run out of room, you can go down 1, left 2, down 1, left 2. This is an equal sign. So it's always going to be a solid line, and no, I'm not shading. You only have to shade, flip back one page. You shade if you have an inequality, like a greater than or a less than, okay? So there's my black line. Now let's do the blue line. I'm going to start on +3. So my first dot goes on the y-axis, always on the y-axis. And the slope, well, there's not a fraction there, so I'm going to make it into a fraction, and I'm going to go down to right 1. Right 1 because it's a +1 that I put down there. So down to right 1, down to right 1. Oh, there's where they touch. I got the intersection point, down to right 1. Here's my next line. Nailed it. And remember that the answer is asking me where do those two lines touch. So the solution, the multiple choice answer you're going to want to pick is 2, -1. That is where those two lines intersect. Okay, number 2, you will do the same way and try and see where they intersect. The next one, substitution and elimination. I know you remember these, and these were kind of difficult because we had to do a lot of work in algebra for these. But when you have one of the variables by itself, let's take all of this stuff and plug it in for y to the other equation. That's called substitution. And you're going to do that when you have one of the letters, the variables, all by itself. So I'm going to recopy this equation, but I'm going to leave a giant space right here for y, and I'm going to plug all this stuff into it. It's called substituting. So I'm going to put 4x plus giant space, and then q equals 26. Inside that space, I'm going to put this stuff, x minus 4. Okay, if there's a number here to distribute, you should do that, but there's nothing there. So I'm going to just combine. 4x plus another x makes 5x. And now I'm going to keep the -4 where it is, and I'm going to keep the equals 26. I'm going to add 4 to both sides to try and get the x by itself. 5x equals 26, and 4 makes 30. Divide by 5. If I go too fast, pause, you guys. Love you all. 30 divided by 5 is 6. Now what I would encourage you to do is look at your multiple choice answers, because they're all going to be written as like, remember how we write the answer? It's going to be x, y, and I now know that the x value is 6 for the answer. So look at your multiple choice answers, because maybe only one of them has an x value of 6 and you can be done. But if there's a couple of them that have a 6, something, then maybe you should figure out which one is the right answer. Let's take this 6 and let's plug it into the easiest spot for x that you can find. I think that looks pretty easy. When I do y equals 6 minus 4, I'm going to write that here. That means y equals 2. 2 is the y value. So remember, when you solve these, you have to have an x and a y, so just be aware of that. I know it's kind of annoying. Number 4. Here we go. This one, the way they're lined up, x's, y's, whole numbers, that's good. You might have to rearrange the problem to get it lined up like that. But do you remember for elimination, what happens if you just add these together right away? Can you tell that these would cancel? That's good. That actually means that this one lines up very nicely, and this will end up working out pretty quickly. When I add negative y and positive y, those cancel. I'm going to add 2x and 4x, which makes 6x. Keep the equal sign in the middle, and negative 2 plus 20 makes 18. I'm going to divide by 6 to figure out what x is. That means I got x equals 3, and remember that we write our answer like 3 comma something. And check your multiple choice answers. Maybe only one of them has a 3 for the x. That's your answer. You can be done. If you need to figure out what the y value is, then plug it into the easiest spot that you can. I don't know which equation looks easier. It's not always as easy to tell. Maybe I'll just take that 3 and plug it in right there. I'm going to do that work over here. 2 times 3 minus y equals negative 2. I'm just recopying this entire equation, but plugging in 3 for x. 2 times 3 is 6. I will try and get like terms together, so I guess I'll subtract 6 over. Don't lose the negative sign with the y. This is still negative y, so make it negative y. Negative 2 minus 6 is negative 8. And yes, what you're allowed to do is divide both sides by negative 1, which cancels both of those signs, which means you get 8 for your y value. That's how to do substitution and elimination, you guys. I can leave 3 and 4 to look the exact same. Let me try and pick, how about we do number 13? There's a lot of practice here. I think a lot of us might need some practice. I would suggest doing those and checking the answer key. But let me look at number 13 because it's weird. I know we talked in class about what perimeter means. It means the distance all the way around a rectangle. So this side plus this side plus this side plus this side. And remember how like this is the width and this is the length and this is also the width and this is also the length. So when you do perimeter, we can write this on our formula sheet if you want to, but we're adding 2 different W's together and we're adding 2 L's together to get all the way around. W plus L plus W plus L, that means perimeter. 2W plus 2L equals, and it tells me the perimeter is 284. So that's my first equation. When you see perimeter, write this, and then equal it to whatever number they give you. And then I have to write an equation. Oh dear. The width is means equals 32 feet less, so that means minus 32. Twice the length, that means 2L. Okay? That was a little bit weird, but you have to read the sentence and be able to turn it into math. That is a really advanced topic, but the width is, that's why I wrote W equals. 32 feet less is kind of weird. When you do 32 feet less, that means minus 32. And twice the length means 2L. Okay, so I wrote that equation. And look, now what I can do is some substitution, I think. W is all by itself, and I can plug it in for that W. So I'm going to write 2 parentheses and plug in all that stuff for W, and then keep writing the rest of this equation. So plus 2L equals 284. What was that equation again? 2L minus 32. What you're probably going to want to do is distribute. So I'm going to do 4L minus 2 times 32 is actually 64. Plus 2L equals 284. Yeah, you can combine your like terms. 4L plus another 2L makes 6L. I'm going to write up here since I'm running out of room. 6L minus 64 equals 284. I'm going to add 64 to both sides. 8. I'm just doing that in my calculator. 6L divided by 6. L equals, let me see, when I divide 348 divided by 6, that gives me 58. Okay. And then last thing you want to do to figure out what the length is, because it does want the length and the width, is I'm going to take this L and I'm going to plug it in wherever is the easiest spot you can find to plug it in. When I take 58 times 2, I get 116, and then minus 32, you get 84. So I did 2 times 58 minus 32, and that gives me 84. That, my friends, is my width. So hard problem to end on. Thank you, and good for you for hanging with me on that. But all the rest for this section are just practice, okay?